It's Ziliax, but a plushie!
Welcome back to Bread and Butter, everybody. We're serving up the basics for Hearthstone and improvement in episode 65. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tito. Tito, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Doc. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And we have the ever wonderful super guest host, Dawn, aka DragonRider. Dawn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you, as always, for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So, Dawn, what have you been doing in Hearthstone recently?
Well, that almost, almost feels like a trick question because I really feel like I haven't played very much lately. So I guess what I've done is played some standard for the Hearthstone 10-year anniversary, and then I did some theory crafting during the theory crafting stream. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing in the game.
Awesome.
What a coincidence. We're here to talk about that theory crafting stream tonight.
Whoa.
It's like Kismet.
And Tito, how about yourself?
I'm still playing a lot. I know people get bored with the metas. I so far really don't. Even when it's like a solve meta or not solve meta, I'm still having fun. I've been playing a new to me. It's the Franken meta right now, right? So cards have been unbuffed and unnerfed and whatnot. And I'm playing a Frost Unholy FFU Death Knight, which has been a lot of fun. It does pretty well. I've been winning with it. In fact, one of our listeners, Lazy Turtle, was able to take it to Legend and was pleased with that. So it's a fun deck, but just in general, I've decided to maybe not pursue Legend as much as I did before on all the servers, but I'm playing. I do want to use those other servers for testing, so I've got them both up to Diamond 10 on Asia and EU, which is probably good enough, and I'll play other decks on there. And Americas, I've been trying to improve my rank. It's been middling at best right now, but I haven't been that focused. But I'm having fun playing. Pretty much whatever I play. I've been playing too much Black Rock and Roll Warrior, which is why I am where I'm at. But still throwing in some odd different versions of Paladin and like I said, that for that Death Knight, we finally got Death Knight to 500 wins, which means I finally have all classes to 500. Now I just have to get Death Knight to 1,000, and then I'll have all classes at 1,000. Which, unless there's some Death Knight that it really takes hold of me in this next year, that probably will take a little while. But I guess we'll see. Doc, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been primarily playing Battlegrounds just because for me, this part of the year for rotation and standard is just always like pulling teeth. And so I just have to let standard kind of let my star bonus, whatever, decay for a while just because it just really doesn't jive with me when there's this much stuff. So I've just been playing BGs, having fun with BGs. I had a fun game where I went demons and then I got the tribal quest. So whenever you play a minion, each other minion that you have of the same tribe gets +1/+1. And so I was just demon tribal, just trying to eco demons a little bit, which is really hard because demons aren't necessarily built for that, especially the route that I went. I got second. It was fine. Reno took me down to 1, and then it was Reno and I for like 5 turns, just ourselves. And they got there in the end. I took them down to 2. So it was a very fun, very competitive game with us having to figure out how we wanted to move our minions around because that was mattering with how our boards were set up. And it was a lot of fun. BGs is a good time. I am very excited for the BG teaser that we got, that it'll be double the fun. I hope that means the things I hope it means. But yeah, that's what I've been doing inside Hearthstone. Dawn, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
I feel like we go over this every time I'm here, but it's almost like, what am I not doing? So I think we talked about it last time that I was on. But in addition to things like content and the couple of podcasts that I've been doing, I mentioned the couple of like streams and stuff. I have also started online school. So that's underway now, working towards my associates in accounting. So that's pretty exciting. And then I don't know. Outside of that, I feel like there's not much time. Other than that, I'm maybe trying to sleep.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I always knew that we could count on you, but now you'll have the degree to go with it.
But
E-Sheep would be happy.
E-Sheep would be happy. Doc, how about yourself? What have you been up to outside of the game Hearthstone?
Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Commander with Man at Arms and Gator from Squelch, and just some of our other buddies. It's been a lot of fun. I can't remember if this happened before or after our last episode, but I had a very crazy game where I won on turn 5. Because my deck does some very degenerate things the one that I like the most. So what it does is any non-combat damage dealt, if it's less than my commander's attack, which is 4, it deals 4 attack. However, I have a lot of things that can either increase his attack or double his attack, and different ping effects I can tap them to trigger them to use their ability, and then I cast an instant or sorcery spell, and then they untap, and then I can tap them again. And then I can play another instant or sorcery. And so in a single turn, we stopped counting, but I did at very least 56 damage to everybody in one turn on turn 5. Felt very degenerate. Gave them major O'Hare Axonil PTSD, because that deck has not done that again. But when I play him, I'm usually the first one out, rightfully so. But it's just been a lot of fun. Just playing Commander with Matt and everybody. Today, I went out to dinner with Cortland, and we went to this German bistro that she found, and it was so incredible. Had the best Reuben sandwich I've ever had in my life, and it was fantastic. I definitely think we're going to go there again, just because it's relatively close and it was delicious. And then more family D&D. So who doesn't like playing Dungeons & Dragons? Who doesn't like doing stuff with their family? This is like our 4th or 5th session of family D&D, and it's just always a great time. So it's just fun getting people together for that. And I have to shout out my twin brother, because as some of you may know, because I've mentioned it a couple times, he is a film major in college. He's in his final year. His short film that he filmed last year, Pickles, is now got accepted into its 4th film festival, which is pretty good. And then the 3rd film festival it got into was actually the Yale Student Film Festival. So he's very, very excited about that. That's very big because Yale's very prestigious. And he still has to hear back from I think 7 other film festivals on whether or not he got into those. So the potential for them to get into more is ever growing. He did get done filming his capstone last weekend, so now editing and all that stuff is going to happen, and I'll get to see it next month. And I set up my brother-in-law's first PC ever, so that was fun, getting him over to playing on computer and playing Helldivers 2 and some Commander with him, and it's been a fun time. And as always, that's my my big old long novel of what I've been doing outside of Hearthstone. Tito, how about you?
Honestly, it's been some weeks you get busy and lots of things happen. Some weeks nothing happens. And that's pretty much been this week. Work, taking the kid to do things when he has to do them, sleep, stream, whatnot. Fun about it. I'm gearing up. My ADHD has been gearing up quite a bit too, though. So it's preventing me from doing the things I mean to do. Like I'm looking to inventory and price out my Magic collection so I can start selling it. Because I have a lot of old cards, and a little extra cash here and there doesn't hurt, and I'm not exactly playing anything. And if I did, I'd probably have nothing that would be worth putting together into something that's playable now. So if I ever decide to play again, I would probably just start with new stuff or start building up. So let's start doing that. And I have a binder here that's been sitting next to me for weeks now, and I just haven't got it done. but we'll do it. We'll get there. I promise. I promise myself. It's just not this week. It's not tomorrow. It's not the next day. I had a little bit of a cold, which, I made it all the way through winter without getting sick. And then, I get a little cold here at the end, but I think, managed to mostly fight it off. I was only sick for like a day and a half. Still got a little bit of stuffy nose, but thankfully, just get there. But other than that, it's been a quiet week. Nothing happened on the weekend. We're starting to hit some spring weather, so hopefully we get some yard work done. That's not very exciting, but that is what it is. But anyway, I don't think anybody really cares about my being sick or my yard work. So why don't we talk about what people came here for? And today's topic is, so normally we do an interview, but we already know Dawn so well that I don't think we really need to do an interview again. And normally we have another, maybe we'll throw something in there, but today we're going to talk about theory crafting because Dawn was there. She was there. She crafted and theoried and crafted and and she might have even whiz-banged. I don't know. So we're here to learn about that. So Dawn, before we get into classes and decks and whatnot, what were your general thoughts on the theory crafting yesterday?
My general thoughts, I would say, are, of course, that it was fun. I think every time that I've done it, it's been enjoyable, but it's always fun to just jump in and play new stuff. And I think that I don't know what it was about kind of this time around. I felt like I saw quite a bit of variety of stuff. So, sometimes in the past there's been, a lot of people will be playing the same thing. I did run into the same person quite a few times, which we might talk about. But in terms of the different decks and things that I saw, aside from that one person, it was a variety of stuff, which felt really cool. It felt good. And I think a lot of the cards that I initially kind of thought would be a little underwhelming or not necessarily very good ended up feeling a little bit better in general than I expected them to. So overall, that was really cool and satisfying as a first taste of the new cards.
And it's funny that you say that. I was watching Ron. I was watching everybody. I had everybody pulled up. Trying to find those giveaways, see if we can, land one. But mostly it was also fun to just watch everybody. And I saw Ron Mexico go against Sidisi in a Hunter Mirror 3 games in a row. The pool is so small that if you queue up and they're queuing up, you're just there. And spoiler alert, Sidisi kicked his So good on Sidisi. Won the battle of it was almost like a fight night there, the way it worked.
That's great. But, battle of the Hunter mains.
Yeah, I actually saw a lot of old style decks too that were kind of just throwing in some new cards. I saw actually more Plague Death Knight than I thought I would. I saw a lot of just people trying out old archetypes with new stuff, which I was kind of disappointed to see that a little bit because you just want to see the new stuff. Is Plague Death Knight with new cards going to be good? Probably, but that's not the point of theory crafting. Let's see the new stuff. Let's have more fun. And for the most part, it was good. But I saw a little bit of that. So what did you think of the power level? Do we feel like this is a strong Forb set as far as power level, or is it more like a Barons 4 set?
It's so hard to say, honestly. I mean, in terms of at least what people were looking at when you just look at the cards, I know I've heard a lot of people talking about, and a lot of high level players saying that this set looks much more low power level than other sets, but also it's the beginning of the year. I think the first set of the year probably should be a little bit weaker. I don't think it's necessarily as weak as some of the other sets we have seen, so I'm happy about that. But I think also the thing that I feel for this time around is that also a lot of the core set changes I didn't necessarily notice a ton of people playing like the core set cards. And I know I didn't really as much. And some of that I think is a lot of the cards for both the core set and this expansion in general are very focused on like the nostalgia aspect. And, hey, this is like the kind of set that's coming out at the same time as the 10-year anniversary. And so I think with a lot of the designs of the cards, they tried to just kind of hit on the nostalgic aspect of the cards, or like, what the previous cards kind of used to do. And it's a lot of those cards don't necessarily compete with cards that have started coming out more recently. So
I'll say one thing I remember from Baron specifically is that there was a real kind of lack of lethality. And that's what a lot of people complain about. That's how we get things like Priest that just goes on forever and ever, because they just attrition Priest, right? And that kind of stuff, because there isn't a whole lot of lethality. And that's how we end up with like Astalar and like these neutrals that are like the finale, the ways to win the game, right? The lethality tools. How did you feel about the lethality of some of the set pieces that we're getting?
I actually felt like it was pretty good, based on what I was seeing. So yeah, I definitely don't think it was, like, kind of like, oh, okay, let's just put in these couple of like neutral legendaries and, everyone's going to play those. Now, I will say that with the slight caveat that the Theorycraft streams themselves are not always representative of what the meta is going to look like. So, I do feel like as a community and in general, we have moved away from that sentiment of, oh, I hate the Theorycraft streams because they're just going to figure out the meta. And that's not the case at all. So definitely kind of glad that we've moved away from that over the more recent years. But I do think that there was actually quite a bit of like closing out games. Some of the games felt really fast. There was like big pop-off turns, and kind of a variety of stuff. I did play against some of like the mage that was kind of popping off with like, it was no minions in the deck. So it was a lot of spells, maybe a lot of like random generating stuff. I saw quite a bit of druid. Part of that was because I faced the same person who was playing the same thing. I know I keep alluding to it, but I'll dive more into that in a minute. And there's kind of big pop-off turns with that. I think even with several of the classes, there was actually a lot of like hand buffing and things that were happening, and then that you kind of could create some big bodies on the board and then just kind of smack face and end games pretty quickly. So yeah, in terms of that, it did feel like there was some lethality and some game ending. But I would say what I noticed in my experience was that it actually was more focused on the class cards and like what the classes wanted to do, rather than just like here's the legendaries, or like here's the couple of cards that like everybody's gonna play.
Fair enough. And that's what that's kind of what I want. It kind of always is not as much fun when you win or lose with the same card, whether you're playing against a druid or you're a priest or whatever, and it's always, oh, okay, but here's the Astalar, here's Sire Denathrius, and there's so many scenarios built around them. So that's what I'm hoping for, that even if like some classes are more powered than the other, that the lethality comes more from uniqueness in each of the classes. So that's good. So I know you're excited to talk about this. Who did you play and beat that felt really good, and who did you play a lot and whatnot?
So I will say that I feel like I have to preface this. Generally, for the Theorycrafts, I take an approach of, I just want to jam a bunch of the new cards, and I don't care about like wins and stuff, because I want to see how the new cards play. I want to see how the new cards interact. We have to have a minimum of 10 new cards from the set in every deck, and Renathal is rotating out. So we were on the new build, so we had all the core changes and the rotation and stuff with that server. So there was like no like ridiculous like Renathal decks or anything. So a third of everybody's deck had to be new cards. So that also could have played into why I feel like we saw a lot of class cards and stuff. I don't feel like I won a ton. So I did win one game against Cantaloupe, which I feel like that was pretty sweet. But there was one like play that he made that both of us, like, I feel like both of us just kind of like froze, you know, when you look at that and go, oh, well, that's not how I thought that was going to go. And unfortunately for him, it was beneficial for me. So he was playing Hunter with the new RC Hounds, and he played the spell that puts out the 1/1 RC Hounds, and any that can't fit, buff all the rest. Well, apparently that card, and it is intended to work that way, it only buffs any RC Hounds that got played from that spell. So he already had like 4 on the board, 4 or 5, and played that spell, and then it only buffed. He had like 1 minion, 4 RC Hounds, and a location or something. So he had 1 more space for a Hound, so it put the 1, and then the others couldn't fit, so it buffed up the 1 Hound that he summoned, and it didn't buff the ones he already had on board. And we chatted for a minute because it was like, sent him a message, was like, oh, that's, yeah, both of us were like, that's not what we expected to happen. Like we both were like ready for it to just like buff all of the Hounds. So yeah, I think knowing that, he may have done something differently, and maybe I wouldn't have won the game, but you know, I did end up winning that.
So you don't have to justify it, just say, yeah, but yeah, there we go.
Well, yeah, there you go.
But that sounds like some POSIC. That sounds like some POSIC interactions too. There were so many weird interactions with POSIC.
Yeah.
What if you stole it? What if this happened? What if? Yeah, and it seems like they fixed some things with it, because I had somebody, what we call reverberations, my POSIC, and then they killed it, and then they got my bots on their side to come down. But I don't remember it working that way when POSIC first came out, because I know I made that play, and I know it didn't work that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my memory, that didn't work that way, and I was disappointed. And I was like, oh, you can't do that. So either they changed it or not. So maybe this is something that they'll fix or change, because, hey, you know, you have 2 of them, so whatever, but who knows?
Yeah, from my asking in the behind-the-scenes servers and stuff, it sounded like that's how the card works. Like, that's very intended. That is... Yeah, but there are multiple cards that I think already this set, it's like they're not intended to work with just any card that is named the same thing. For example, like one of the cards that I revealed, because I also got to do a reveal for the first time, which was super exciting. The Fluffy Hydra. That 2/4 neutral one that's a death rattle, puts it back in your deck with its stats doubled. It doesn't buff every single card called Fluffy Hydra. It just doubles the stats of the single one that you put in the deck.
Oh, but that one makes sense.
So that's kind of, yeah. So the card, let me pull it up here. That RC Hound one that he played, which is, like I said, it's a spell. It is the 4-cost RC Rampage. Summon 6 1/1 Hounds. Any that can't fit, give the others +1/+1. So it does kind of indicate on there, and it's only giving the others that you would summon the +1/+1, not any other Hounds that would be on the board already. So it does seem like they kind of did make that kind of a theme with a lot of these cards. So I don't expect that to get changed.
Maybe. Yeah, it makes sense. And it reads that way. If they did change it, they would change the wording of it. Maybe if Hunter needs a buff, they would do that or something. But yeah, and what you were saying about the card that keeps shuffling back into the deck, that one makes sense too. And the same thing would happen if you played the +3/+3 death rattle, put it back in your deck, whatever it was. All those things seem targeted. So, but I'm kind of surprised that the RC Rampage didn't work on all of them. That was pretty interesting. So I should have asked you this before that. So let's take a brief tangent, and tell us about your card reveal.
Oh, yeah. So that was really, really exciting. This was my first time doing a card reveal. So that was, like I said, very exciting. I got to reveal 3 neutral cards, which were the Fluffy Hydra that I mentioned, Playhouse Giant, which is that 20 mana 8/8 giant that gets discounted for cards that you've drawn, and then Nostalgic Gnome, which probably won't really be remembered because I don't think it's that great, but but yeah, it was really cool getting to do that. I think I knew about probably 2 weeks before what my cards were, like 2 weeks before my reveal, what the cards were. So I had ample time to like put something together and, get it filmed and stuff. I had a whole like idea on like maybe doing some sort of like pseudo movie trailer, like announcer voice kind of thing and like going through things. But I was like, I don't know if I want to reference other like movies and IPs and like that kind of thing. And I didn't know for my YouTube video if I put in any sort of like quotes or images or music or anything related to like other movies and that kind of thing. I was like, I don't want to run into any like issues. So I was like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And then I thought, that's not even really the kind of content that I do anyways, right? Like my content isn't really focused on like being super funny and spontaneous. Like, I feel like personally, sometimes I am just spontaneous and funny, but that's not really what my content is. I do really enjoy content where I'm kind of guiding and teaching and giving like analysis. And that's also another, like I've probably said on here, why I enjoy coming on this show so much, right? Because you guys have given me this place where I can kind of go into more in-depth topics and break that down. And that's the kind of style of content that I enjoy doing. That's why I like casting so much as well. So then I decided I was going to do like a video basically where I was like a teacher and I would reveal, these cards based on like their quote unquote like course. Like we would go through a course, a lesson, and each card. So it was fun. I spent a lot of time on the video though. I mean, I probably put a good like 10 hours into that video, like between the actual like planning, recording, editing. I mean, I spent a good 2 hours of that time just on like the graphics that I had put together for it, like a little chalkboard graphic where the text popped up, and like I even I colored the text. I literally put the art of the card on my like Canva and stuff, put it there, and matched a color from the card art for the text of the like class name for each of the 3 cards. So each of the 3 cards is like a different text, and it was colored like based on the card image. And it was just like I put a lot of work and effort into it. So I was like, I just want to do a good job for my first reveal.
So it was very good. And I'm sure that by the 20th anniversary, Bread and Butter will also have a card reveal. So, or by the way, the 20th year anniversary. So so after going through the process, and I know we've completely tangented, but after going through the process, what would you have done different, and what were you happy with?
Overall, I was happy with kind of how like overall it turned out. I think that like the graphics and all the like the video quality and stuff looked really good. There was like one card that I mentioned that I didn't even like. I wasn't even saying like this card is like going to be used. I didn't even put an image of the card. It was like a passing reference, but I messed up how the interaction with that card worked, which was Finley for a draw. Because when Sir Finley puts cards onto the bottom of your deck and then you draw, well, it's not really drawing, it's replacing. Yeah, it's swapping. So it was kind of a little disheartening, like while I was watching the chat and like trying to interact with people while it was like initially live and like going live and playing for the first time, people were like, that's not how it works. And I was like, like, it just kind of was like, oh, dang it. Okay, like, I messed that up. And now people are like, oh, not going to take me seriously. Or maybe I won't get another card reveal in the future because, like, I'm dumb and can't do it right. So, yeah, I kind of internalized that a little bit. So definitely, I would have really made sure. And I even thought about cutting that part out of my video. And then afterwards, it was like, I should have just cut that out. But after it's out, I can't, not going to do that. So,
well, one, obviously not dumb. You're one of the smartest people I know. Two, I'm sure that that will not be in consideration. And we were just talking about that card too, because the other card that comes out right now that we have, it's Gaslighter or whatever it might be. It's a 3/4. It draws cards from the bottom of your deck, but it draws. It doesn't swap.
Oh, Gaslight Gatekeeper. So yeah, so that's one that I brought up. I did play that in theory crafting, actually. So here's a way to bring it back to the theory crafting too. I actually did play that card and was testing out the Playhouse Giant that I did reveal. And yeah, so the way that Gaslight Gatekeeper works is it's that 3 mana 3/4, and you play it, and the battle cry is you shuffle your hand into your deck and draw as many cards as you had. So it could be from anywhere. It's not just the bottom of the deck like Finley was. So you potentially, especially depending on how many cards you might have left in the deck, as your deck gets thinner, it's higher chance. You'll shuffle your hand in. There's a chance you're going to get a card or two or a couple of those cards back as well. So yeah, pretty interesting, but that is draw, and that does discount that Playhouse Giant.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So yeah, good way to bring us back to the theory crafting. Thank you for indulging. All these questions, by the way, I did not preemptively give to DragonRider. I've been kind of getting around the spot, so apologize, but I figured you'd want to talk about it.
I mean, I do broadcasting live. I'm pretty used to the on the spot, having to banter, make things up, or dive into discussions. And I do 2 podcasts a week where that's pretty much what we do too. So I'm used to it.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about the classes now. Let's go into it a little bit. So I have them in order, but they're not necessarily the order we probably should go in, but why not? So let's start off with Death Knight, where you have the first Death Knight hero, you have the first Death Knight spellstone, you have some hand buffing. What did you see? What did you play? And what do you think about Death Knight going into the expansion?
Yeah. So I ended up playing a handful of games. I tried to really only play 3 to 5 games per deck so that I could try to get more decks in. I took the deck recipe that they had and then changed it up a little bit, which ended up being a 2 Frost, 1 Unholy Death Knight. So, no, 2 Blood Unholy. Is that what I said?
No, you said 2 Frost, but 2 Blood.
2 Frost. Okay. Yeah. I was like, that didn't sound right. 2 Blood and 1 Unholy. So it was Blood, Unholy.
Red, green.
Yes. Red, green. And it was focused on buffs and buffing your stuff. So it was absolutely running the new miniaturized Puppeteer card for Death Knights. And it did have the Spellstone in there. And it also used the new 1 Unholy Rune Quilters, which are Quillbores, that at the end of the turn, they deal damage to enemies, just randomly split among all enemies based on their attack. Oh boy, that was fun. And I will say, that card specifically, I did not have high hopes for. I'm still not sure that once we actually get to a more, actual standard, maybe a little bit more solved meta after, a couple weeks of the meta, that will be an actual top card. But in the theory crafting, buffing your hand, playing some undeads, getting those things out on the board, and then just dealing a bunch of damage to your opponent's minions and potentially their face with those was super fun.
Now, did you get to play Dr. Stitchin Sue so at all?
I did. I think I only managed to actually draw and play it once, but it was really fun. I mean, it stuck around for a while and was definitely a really obnoxious minion for my opponent to deal with. So, because it starts out as the first body, Dr. Stitch and So, and then when he dies, the 5-cost minion that you selected pops up on the board. And when that dies, the 3-cost one that you selected popped up on the board. And when that dies, the 1-cost one that you picked pops up on the board. So it's just like, it's like a never-ending minion. And I didn't see a lot of silence. So that's definitely, if that becomes a thing, people are going to have to be aware of that.
If you play silence on Theory Crafting Day, you probably shouldn't be at Theory Crafting Day because... that's the whole fun. Let's see what these things do. Like, I'm curious what happens if you Death Growl Dr. Stitch and So onto 2 other things. Do they summon the 5-mana minions?
Oh my!
Do they summon the 3-mana minions after that? I'm assuming they just summon the 5-mana minions and that's it. But who knows? I think that's going to be a fun interaction.
I don't know. I should have tested that because that sounds absolutely ridiculous and fun, and I want to do that now.
That sounds like Battlegrounds, right? When you have those guys that keep popping out guys that then pop out more guys when they die. All right. Well, Doc, do you have any questions on Death Knight before we move on to the next class?
Did you have a chance to play the OTK Death Knight?
Which one specifically was that?
The hand buff with I think it's the Quill Boar that at the end of the turn it deals damage. Okay.
So yeah, I played. So I didn't. Generally, I don't take a lot of like deck lists from what other people are playing. I do try to just create my own decks, or if like my community wants to see something and they submit, then maybe I'll play that. So I took the deck recipe, which was based on like the hand buff stuff, and then I changed it up just a little bit. So yeah, that part was pretty impressive to me. The hand buffing and like the undeads and those quill boars actually ended up being quite a bit better, and like more, it was more consistent than I expected it to be. The one thing I will say with Death Knight, I also in that deck I was like, we gotta play the Headless Horseman hero card, right? Yep. Like that. 4 games, and I never even drew him. I was very sad. I was like, I was like, after the games, I went, we have them in the deck, right? It's in there. And I literally had to go back and pull up the list. I was like, yep, it's in there because I never even drew it. And that made me so sad. I was like, well, don't even get to test the card. We don't even draw it. So, I mean, maybe that's a reflection of, things that can happen because it is a legendary. So it's only 1 card in a deck of 30. And, that maybe will also tell you how fast some of the games were going because we had multiple games where I never even drew that. So I feel like games were kind of ending between turns like 6 and 8, 6 and 9 maybe. So
nice. All right, so let's move on to Demon Hunter. What did you play in Demon Hunter? What did you like? What did you not like? What did you see? I heard there wasn't a lot of Demon Hunter. I
don't think that I played any Demon Hunter myself. I did see a little bit. I saw somebody trying to do the like Magtheridon, but I can't even remember what deck it was now that I was playing, but I had answers for it. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll just, take my 3 damage right now, and then like as soon as it wakes up, there's going to be a 12/12. Oh, I remember what it was. I was testing, I don't remember what deck it was, but I was testing the Crane, the Origami Crane. That's a 1/1 with Divine Shield and Lifesteal that when you play it, it swaps stats with another minion. Yeah, you get to target where that goes. So, that's a great removal tool. And basically as soon as their Magtheridon woke up, I was like, cool, here's Crane, and now your Magtheridon that just woke up is a 1/1, and I have a 12/12 Divine Shield Lifesteal on the board. So, yeah, that was about all of the Demon Hunter I think I saw.
I can't wait for the clip of somebody playing the Califero, whatever his name is, the artist, to get all those Magtheridons so that you're getting 6 times 3, 18 damage per turn.
I know people were trying that. Also, you were mentioning Ron, one of our other Amberflight Gaming players. We had 4 AFG players, which was awesome. But McDroogie, or M. Droogie, who was one of the other players, he was talking about that. He tried to do that, but he never drew the Califero. So he was really sad because like, I tried to do this. And he tried Califero in a couple of different decks. But again, kind of like I mentioned with never drawing the Headless Horseman, I think that was just, games did feel like they were ending pretty quickly for the most part. So I don't, it's difficult to pull off a lot of those combos when the games were going significantly faster.
I'm very excited. I'm very happy, not excited. I'm very happy that this is how the free legendary has gone, though. It's like a card that it can do something stupid and can beat you out of nowhere, but you're not going to see it everywhere. Like, it's really kind of like, there was a druid going around that was playing, I think, Ragnaroses or something like that. So it was trying to get a bunch of tokens, and then it would Califero, and you get a bunch of rags, or it might have been another thing. The drakes, the 8 mana 8/8 rush, when it dies, it summons another 8 mana 8/8. They had those going, and yeah, I'm kind of glad that we don't have another Renathal here or another Sire Denathria. Sire Denathria was in the free card, right? It was Renathal, it was we've had a bunch of those. Sunwell wasn't too bad. No, it's the niche. I like the niche play ones. It's fun, it's interesting, it's quirky, but it's not going to dominate the meta. All right, Doc, you got any questions on Demon Hunter before we move on to next? I just got to make sure Doc isn't asleep. He doesn't have a camera tonight. His camera's broken.
No. Demon Hunter, just from what I watched, kind of seemed not the style of Demon Hunter that I enjoy playing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I feel like that's probably a pretty popular sentiment. Even like the card reveal or the card reviews that I've caught in so far, not a lot of people seem super impressed or excited about the Demon Hunter cards.
Yeah.
Speaking,
and you know what? It's okay. Every class should have its time in the mud, because eventually it's gonna be out and up in the sun again, because that's just how Hearthstone is.
Speaking of disappointing cards, let's move on to Jade Display and Druid. Jade Display is not very impressive, but how was the rest of Druid? What did you play and what did you see? What did you like?
Okay, so I did not play any Druid myself either, but now we get to the story of seeing the same deck and the same person repeatedly, which I think I played somewhere in the vicinity of, it had to have been 6 to 10 games just against McBanterface. And I think 5 of the 6 or so, whatever the equivalent is, basically all but one game that I played against McBanterface, he was playing Druid. Now, no, he was not doing the Jade Display stuff. No. Instead, he was doing some spell damage stuff and playing the new miniaturized Chia Drake. Now, that might sound like, okay, how did the spell damage stuff go? Well, the spell damage wasn't the whole deck. What his deck actually wanted to do, the spell damage was just, at that point, a bonus. What he really wanted to do was play A&R, the Titan, play Cover Artist, that 4-mana 3/3 that turns it into a 3/3 copy. And then he was also playing Zola the Gorgon. So, and then also the spell that they changed to, that was giving you so many copies. Yes, Reflections. Thank you. Yeah, that was giving so many copies. They nerfed that. But turns out that's still good when you're also running Cover Artist and Zola. So many a games where we just saw what felt like endless A&Rs, and that was really annoying, and I hated it. I hated every second of it. I was still trying to have fun, but I was like, this is not going to last long if this becomes popular, because that was Like, it did not feel okay.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to see that over and over again. Like, maybe it's a fun deck,
Yeah.
maybe it's interesting, but yeah, let's not make these games theory crafting go 30 minutes plus, and you can't concede because you have to assume you can concede. If I understand the rules correctly, you can't concede if it's a named person. If it's a patron, like if it's like Happy Patron or something like that, you can, because that's probably those are the people that are doing like news and reporting. But if it's somebody that's possibly making content, you got to play it through.
Yeah, and I think it might also actually just be like devs and stuff, because there was devs, they get devs to jump on and make sure that like all of the content creators like have games, so that we're not just sitting in queue forever. So I think a lot of the like patron named people were actually just like devs or people from Blizzard that were just playing to help the queues. But yeah, so I don't know why I queued into McBanterface so many times, but I think 4 of the games were in a row. It was like 4 in a row, or I just faced his druid. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, okay, I paused, because at that point I was playing Wizbang. So I did test out Wizbang just to kind of see the decks and like see the initial like opening and what it kind of looks like. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that first game didn't go well. Next game, I actually did beat him, because Wizbang gave me the priest deck that had a bunch of it starts you off with 7 of the automatons. I always forget how to say that word.
Automatons.
And so it was like, okay, cool. And then I was able to like just get like on turn 1, I think I played 2 of them out. So turn 1, it was like, cool, turn 1, here's 3 bodies on the board. And then I just kind of steamrolled. And then I was like, okay, after facing him like 3 times in a row, it's like, I'm going to pause. I'm going to go back to the collection manager. I'm going to try building a new deck now. We've tested some Wizbang. Spent some time in there, queued back up, queued right back into McBanterface. I was like, what is happening right now? I don't understand this. So yeah, had to face that disgusting druid again. And yeah, also turns out when you have a bunch of mana from the repetitive ANRs, you have a bunch of healing, you have the new location dollhouse to get some extra spell damage if you want. You have the sparkling file that deals some damage, and then your next card costs that much less. That he was just able to like clear all of my stuff every turn. Or if I had something, it was like, cool, I'll just like refresh my mana and like do a whole bunch more stuff. And then, use like the new miniaturize and just draw some cards. I was like, oh, well, okay. I just kind of felt like I don't get to play. I just get to like watch him do stuff and draw, and then like hit me with, 5 or 6 damage swipes and clear my minions because they were doing 2 or 3 damage to my minions. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. It sounds like, it's fun to play these people, but it's also probably sad when like they can figure these things out a lot faster than we can, right? So he's probably been theory crafting this. He probably couldn't wait to play this deck and do those kind of shenanigans. So, moving on from Druid, let's go to Hunter. What'd you see from Hunter? What'd you play? What'd you like? What didn't you like? Aside from RC rampages, not buffing all the rough RC rampages.
Yeah. So Hunter was definitely a really interesting one. I did try some Hunter. I know a lot of other people are trying Hunter, and from what I saw, it did seem like a lot of people that were posting on Twitter and things like that did have some success with Hunter. And I think a lot of that was jungle gym and kind of going for like wider boards of beasts. So jungle gym is the new location that deals 1 damage to a random enemy, and you repeat for each friendly beast. So yeah, that can hit face. So if they clear, the maybe 1 or 2 minions that you might have on board, then they can send that face or just help to clear some stuff up. And Jungle Gym actually did impress me, I think, more than I was expecting. And probably that's why some of these other cards did well, because we have those quilters, the Quillbore minions that we talked about for Death Knight, that at the end of the turn, they deal damage, split among all enemies. That hits face. You have this Jungle Gym location for Hunter that deals damage to enemies, so that can hit face. And then Warrior has the training dummy card that also, the Death Rattle it deals its attack to all enemies. So it did feel like there was quite a bit of that, which, for better or worse, we'll see. But I tried some, I want to say, late game beast decks, right? Some, big beast type decks. And I don't feel like they quite kept up as much as the decks that were trying to just go wider on board and use Jungle Gym. Especially with the also new card Patchwork Pals that gets you all 3 animal companions and makes them cost 2 instead of 3. Because turns out when you have a board of, even if they're little 1 attack things on the board, but you have 5 of them, you can play a 2-mana Leok, and all of a sudden they're all 2 attack, and you're staring down minimum 10 damage from those little 1/1s instead of 5. And that damage all starts to add up very, very quickly, especially when there's potentially just all face damage from the Jungle Gym on top of that too. And Kill Command now that's back in the core set. So I was pretty impressed with that, and I think that a lot of those did pretty well.
I think they did miss an opportunity where they should have given the Leark, Hogger, and whatnot. They should have given them a new skin that matches the cards, the picture on the card, which has these little adorable...
The little plushies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so cute.
They should have given us free skin ones.
That would be great.
Doc, I'm sure you want to ask about King Plush, so go ahead.
Yeah, how great is he? How perfect on a scale of 1 to 10?
I will say I am a little biased. So he's like a 12.
Perfect. Would not expect any less from him.
He is pretty cool. I will say though, when you are playing a more beast heavy deck, I tried a very greedy list because I also really want Mystery Egg to be good and to work, because triggering that Death Rattle and getting a beast from your deck and then making it cost 5 less is just so cool. Mm-hmm. But also spending 5 mana to just put a 0 attack body on the board that you don't do anything with is real sad. Real sad. Especially when you're in a Hunter Mirror match and you're facing down a board that's just a bunch of tokens and stuff, and you're like, oh, I can't play this egg. It does nothing. Then you're very sad. But I did get to play a bit of the King Plush. You get a copy from the Mystery Egg. So if you do get it to pop off, it felt really cool with both King Plush and the Toy Rhinosaurus. I got to play a 2-mana Toy Rhinosaurus, and I had 4 copies in my hand of a 2-mana Toy Rhinosaurus. So that was neat.
Nice.
That's gross.
Yes. The downside is that even though it's Rush, and those are Death Rattles, again, when you are facing into decks that just have a bunch of smaller minions, kind of was okay, this is not a great matchup, which ended up being what I faced when I was playing it. So I definitely will want to see how those kind of work in more number of games, right? Because only playing a few games and then it being against decks that are just going wide, that was terrible. But I think there is some potential, and I did get to play specifically King Plush once for the Battle Cry, and it was pretty sweet. Just watching all of those minions go away, and I was like, this is great. This is great.
And the diamond of that card looks awesome, but unfortunately it's it's $40 or something.
Yes, the diamond, if anybody has not seen the diamond version of that card, please do yourself a favor and go look at it. It is amazing. He is a plush T-Rex that is chomping around at the air and then picks up and shakes his head and breaks apart a little toy train, and it is amazing.
All right, and I love Hearthstone devs, I'm going to give you one for free because I know you're listening. You're out there, right? You're listening to the show weekly. I know it. get the beast tag off of dinosaurs. Take it off. Take no beast. Give it dinosaur its own tribe, and let's just get dinosaurs as a tribe in the game. It would break some things.
Why not both?
Why not both? Sure.
Why not
Yeah,
both?
they could be.
I think that would be too strong.
See,
Yeah.
I would love that, but I think it's because dinosaurs are beasts and WoW.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
But I would love that. I would love dinosaur tribal to be a thing in Hearthstone so much.
Yes, me too. I love dinos. That would be sweet.
all right. Well, let's move on to Mage. I'm going to say one thing. I don't know if you have the list of cards up, Dawn. But if you look at the art for Manufacturer Error, it looks like it's a combination of the guy that's on there. He's trying to solve a puzzle, and it's not right. He looks like he's a combination of Dwight's brother Mose from The Office and Wolverine. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, a little bit. I would say if anybody has seen the original Jumanji movie with Robin Williams, he looks kind of like the kid that turns into the monkey to me.
Oh heck yeah! Okay.
Yeah.
So how was Mage? How was Khadgar? How was Yogbox? How was the Galactic Projection Orb?
Mage seemed okay. I definitely did see it a few times. I know some other people were trying it and playing it out. So the decks that I did see for Mage were mostly no minion Mage. So yeah, they were running the Manufacturing Error that draws 3 cards and would discount it. Would discount the cards, the Discovering minions, and Discovering a Secret. I saw that. I did see a little bit of some other Mage, maybe 1 or 2 games, and potentially it was just that things were being generated, but did see Khadgar a little bit. Khadgar with that Wisdom Ball that casts the helpful thing seemed pretty decent. I did see some other people posting some things about it that maybe Khadgar missed a lethal, but it's not Zephyrus.
Right.
So it's helpful, but it's not going to be oh, you need 3 damage to your opponent's face. Here's 3 damage for your opponent's face. It's not that smart. So just yeah, it intentionally made that way. Yeah. So just a heads up if you're looking for that. It will be something that's helpful, but it's not necessarily going to guarantee that it's going to give you lethal or give you board clear or something if there's multiple options for it to pull out of the card choices that it has. So just a heads up there.
So I'm happy that it's good, or at least I'm happy that it has positive interactions because it's a class card. I kind of wish they made it a neutral and made it more Khadgar-like, where you have in battle cards. It could be super awesome and it could be super bad. I wouldn't want it to be I wouldn't want it to take one of Mage's legendary to be that. But if it was a random legendary that you play it and it could maybe play Rod of Roasting and keep shooting fireballs or pyroblasts until people die, or it turns all minions into sheep or whatnot. Something just crazy stuff. Sometimes it's beneficial, sometimes it's not. I think that would have been more in the spirit of Khadgar, but I wouldn't want it as a class legendary.
Yeah. I mean, they did kind of do that, but with Yogg in a Box. They were here's some randomness and go. So yeah, Yogg in the Box is the 8 mana epic spell that casts 5 random spells. And if you don't have any minions in your deck, the 5 spells will be 5 cost or more. So you're going to get those more heavy cost spells. That one I definitely did see. It did seem pretty helpful. It was a pretty interesting thing and also potentially recastable. Plus, since it's epic, you could put 2 in the deck. That card is kind of gross when people pull it off of Manufacturing Error and it actually only costs 5 instead of 8. It's ooh, that's nasty. Actually, I feel a lot of these cards, just even getting a discount on any of those spells was oh. Frost Lich, Cross Stitch for 4 was good.
If you do what you just said, and you say you drew a Manufacturing Error, you drew a Yogg in the Box for 5, and you played one for 8, would the Galactic Protection Orb play both? Does it go?
I would have to double check on that because I think it goes off of the base cost of the card. So I think it would look at what the card normally costs. So it would only cast it for the 8.
That's what I would think too.
But I do want to bring this up because I know that some people have kind of been confused on this. That or maybe they just like miss again this, like, it's one word in some of these cards that just like throws people off, or it's like you miss that one specific word when you read it and it completely changes how the card works. So that Galactic Protection Orb that you just mentioned is the 10 mana legendary spell. It says recast a random spell of each cost you've cast this game, and it targets enemies if possible. So even though it's random, it will recast spells that you have played. So it is, if you've played like 3 cost, it will randomly
Pick one of those.
Choose one of those 3 costs to recast. If you've only played 1 3 cost thing, it will recast that single 3 cost spell that you've played. So it's kind of like you kind of know what will come out of it, and it does cast it in numerical order. I have found out as well. So like it starts at 1 and will recast any like 1 cost things that you've played, goes to 2, goes to 3, all the way up. So
all right, fantastic. And then so you can really curate your deck around that, and it'll be interesting if you
If you
haven't played a Yogg in the Box yet, and the Galactic Projection Orb plays Manufacturer Error, you get another one. You have a lot of fun with that. All right, Doc, any questions on Mage before we get moving? We're kind of moving a little bit slow here. I'm going to pick up the pace just a little bit.
Yeah, no questions about Mage.
Right. Paladin. Tell me about Paladin. I want to make sure the Paladin mains out there really get an idea of what's going on here.
Yes.
I heard it's good.
Okay, so yeah, there was some decent Paladin stuff. I would say the Toy Captain Tarim definitely felt amazing in a lot of the cases. Painter's Virtue actually felt pretty solid. That's the weapon that has lifesteal and buffs minions in your hand. The auras, I did try myself some of the like, let's just, play all this aura stuff and like increase the duration of auras and all this stuff. That was a bit too slow for, again, how fast a lot of the games were going. So that felt hit or miss. I did see a Paladin. This was Judge. Now, he does play, he plays a lot of arena. He does a lot of off-meta stuff. He is very good at that just like randomness stuff. He played a Paladin deck with Muscleotron. I completely forgot that was a card. But that buff stuff in your hand. And he basically played a buff Paladin, and it was disgusting. And he had a like big board of just a bunch of big minions, and I was like, I can't do anything about this. So yeah, that was definitely a thing. But again, that was like, that was his deck, his thing. So I didn't see that anywhere else. Crafter's Aura, I will say, I tried so hard to make that card work, and I thought it was going to be cool. I was like, this will be fun. We can, get this out. We'll get multiple turns. Man, the 6 cost minions, don't do it. Don't do it. They were very sad.
Well, speaking of 6 cost minions, the 6 cost Wind Up Enforcer is a tradable Battlecry summon 1 copy of this minion, trade to upgrade. The tradable trade to upgrade is kind of one of they always seem to have a keyword and then a non-keyword kind of thing they add to expansions. This is the non-keyword kind of theme. I'm guessing with how fast you said the games went, except against McBannerface, that this mechanic really didn't probably find a home for you anywhere. Did you see the wind up mechanic work anywhere?
One place. And that was in that deck that I just mentioned from Judge. Because turns out, when you buff that, even if you play it for 1 copy, it's good.
Fair.
If you get it for 2 and it's also buffed up, even better. But yeah, with the buff mechanics, that one definitely got like way better. So
nice. And Tigress plushie, they should make one of those. I'd probably buy it. All right, Doc.
Yes. Okay. I will say for that one, we did the first half of our set review for Doctor 3, and we covered through Paladin. I love this card, Tigress plushie, and my analysis of this card is this card's amazing. It is Ziliax, but a plushie. How can you argue with that?
Speaking of Ziliax, how much of Ziliax did you see? I didn't see a ton of it.
Not a ton. I tried to make it work in a couple decks.
So not.
That's it.
I mean, it looks like I figured it was going to be in like every deck ever, like going forward, because you can just make it. But no, it does not sound like the case. All right, Doc. Anything on Paladin before we move on to Priest?
What was the most underwhelming Paladin card or interaction that you saw, Doc?
There's no such thing.
I would say that was probably Crafter's Aura.
That's fair.
Which makes me so sad because I wanted that card to be good. But every time that it gave me a 6-cost minion, I was like, that minion sucks. That minion is sad. And it was just 1 minion at a time. So it's like, yeah.
There's probably going to be something where you can play Cardboard
really
Golem. You get multiple auras out there. Get a slower kind of deck that will be.
I tried. At one point, I even had 2 Crafter's Aura out because now they've also changed it. You can have the same aura out at the same time.
Oh, yes. And
so
I learned about this today or yesterday. Like, I knew that you could do that, but I thought it was just going to extend the time of the aura. No, it actually it gives you both of the auras. So if you have a Crusader aura,
correct.
If you have +3 and you play another one, you now have +6. And I was kind of surprised by that. I thought it was just going to extend it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, you would still have 3. It would just be double. So you'd have, it was like playing a secret, but you'd have 2 of the same secret out at the same time. Obviously, that's not the thing. But right now, you can do that with auras.
All right.
Okay. So I got to have 2 6-cost minions, which just meant I was doubly sad.
Fair enough. Well, at least it's not 6 mana, 7 mana do nothing, right? It's 7 mana get a minion, but I guess, yeah, you can always...
It felt like do nothing.
All right. So going into this probably the class people have been most either excited or not excited about is Priest. The Priest mains, they had Magical Christmas Land when their cards were revealed. But how good were they? How good was Priest?
Well, I actually feel like we would have to refer to somebody else because I don't think that I even saw it.
You heard it here.
Like
Priest doesn't exist.
I didn't run into it. I didn't see. I think I only saw, like, even from experience, I maybe saw 1 or 2 other creators even like talking about playing Priest or their somewhat success with it, but I didn't see a lot of people even talking about Priest. So,
all right, fair enough. All right, let's move on to Rogue. I'm assuming you got to play a little bit of Rogue or saw a little bit of Rogue. I heard there's a big weapon Rogue coming out now. Weapons with 27 attack.
So I definitely heard a lot about Rogue. I personally didn't run into it a lot. But I heard a lot of people talking about Sonya Water Dancer. So that's after you play a 1-cost card, get a copy of it that costs 0. A lot of shenanigans that you can do with that. For sure. The one Rogue that I did see was playing against our wonderful world champion, Pocket Train. And he was playing a pirate rogue that completely demolished me and was super aggressive, and I died on like turn 4. I was like, oh, well, there's that. So, pirate rogue.
Very nice, very nice. So you didn't really see all that much. I like the location as a Crystal Cove. The next menu you summon this turn is set of stats to 4/4. Just a little. I do like a lot of the flavor they put on. But the one thing I have noticed about these sets is there's a lot of cool flavor, throwback calls, like you said, a lot of nostalgia. But there's not a lot of packaging here. So it's not a lot of like, hey, here are all the mechs.
Right.
Here are all the Murlocs. Here's all the things that go together to do a thing. Like, here are all the riffs. it's all kind of all over the place. So I think that's good. I think that is going to make for a meta that hopefully takes a lot longer to get solved, because there's so many different directions you can go in, because there isn't a lot of those packages. But I guess we'll see. All right. Any questions on Rogue before we move on to Shaman, Doc? I didn't want to shutter block you from asking any questions. So what did you think of Shaman? I'm actually excited to play Shaman.
Yeah, and you're not alone with that. There was actually, I saw quite a few people playing Shaman, talking about Shaman, and I tried it. I ran into like mirror matches. I think the really exciting thing for Shaman is that it felt like there was a variety of Shaman decks that were being tested or talked about. I saw people that said that they were trying like Highlander Shaman stuff. I saw Clark talk about how like the spell shaman or like nature shaman is pretty similar and still seems pretty solid. I was trying a lot of, well, the deck that I put together wasn't great. It was like an elemental shaman mixed with a Hagatha big spell shaman. Probably should not have gone together in the same deck. Because they kind of were working against each other. But I did run into a mirror match at one point, and my opponent was also doing Hagatha stuff. They were playing I think the best scenario for Hagatha. So she draws 2 spells that cost 5 or more and transforms them into slimes that cast the spell. The downside with that, the slimes cost and are statted equal to what the spell is. So if it draws a 6-cost spell, like Once Upon a Time, it will be a 6-cost slime that's a 6/6 body. Which is a cool body, and with Once Upon a Time, it gets you a random 3-cost beast, a random 3-cost dragon, elemental, and a murloc. So like you're getting a lot of bodies and a lot of stats. But you kind of have to make sure that it is like working for you. And if you don't play the slime right away, it felt really clunky. Like if you played Hagatha on curve and then got to play your 6-cost slime on curve the next turn and do that, it felt great, but otherwise it felt really clunky. So yeah, we'll see on that.
All right. Any questions on Shaman before we move on, Doc?
Did you get to cast the mini volcano?
Speaking sort of BSV, yes. BSV. We talked about this last night, man, Dawn. She was talking about how she doesn't want to have to say baking soda volcano every time she's casting. I said, just call it BSV and you'll be good.
Well, not that I don't want to say it, but it's just, it makes me laugh thinking about some of these card names and going, we're going to have to say that name on broadcast for like Masters tours. Here we are like, all right, serious esports. And so-and-so has just played baking soda volcano. Like it just sounds so ridiculous and it made me laugh.
But on the flip side, you get to say, well, it looks like Mick Bannerface is going to have to wish upon a star.
Yes, true. Yes, there's a lot of funny things. It was kind of like, what a world where we're like, I'm thinking about casting and thinking about how funny it is that we're going to be saying cards like baking soda volcano. I did get to cast it. It is really cool. It's definitely does a lot. Like 10 damage. It's sad when you have a thing on the board and you're like, oh man, I didn't want it to hit my thing. But it still was pretty cool. I did see a lot of people though talking about it did seem like it's a pretty slow animation currently. So hopefully they do speed that up a little bit. And that is the only other feedback or anything really I've seen from Shaman so far.
Well, let's move on to the Wheel of Death. Did you see the Wheel of Death?
Not only did I see it, I played it.
And how?
And nice. I casted it.
And
it was pretty much how I expected it to go. Which is, I casted it and was like, all right. And then I died like 2 turns later. And was like, well, that's great. Clark Clark was posting, he went like 7-0 with his like Wheel of Death deck. So, you know, variation of the decks and the matchups potentially that we were seeing. I was trying like a handlock sort of deck that was running, again, that Playhouse Giant that I got to reveal. And it had like all the giants. So the Playhouse Giant, the Molten Giant, the Mountain Giants. And it was running, you know, that Wheel of Death. And I had the Hodiers in there to put more giants into the deck that would summon, you know, basically like everything that I said in my reveal video. I was like, all right, let's try this. And played that Gaslight Gatekeeper for the draws. And I did see quite a few people talking about variations of Control Warlock, you know, big like giant handlock decks, even Wheel of Death. Like there was a lot of variety of that. Probably, I feel like one of the most that I saw people talking about and like biggest variety in a lot of people trying out Warlock decks. So that seemed to be a success and people enjoyed it. As for Wheel of Death itself, still, no, I don't. I don't think it's a great card, but it's a card you can play.
I think it's a card you'll see more often from Yogbox when you don't want to. All right, so let's move on to the final class, which is Warrior. Warrior is like the one class that does have kind of almost a tribalness to it because they kind of went heavy into mechs. Did you see a lot of that? What is Warrior looking like to you?
So I did not see a lot of Warrior at all. And I really only saw like maybe one or two other creators kind of talking about it. I tried some Warrior myself and very similar. I took the deck recipe that they had, like the newest deck recipe, and changed it up a bit. I think it was Matcha Dogs that I saw talking about it. And he's like, the taunt feels great. And he was doing this and he had a lot of success with it and was super fun. I took that deck list and took actually like a handful of the taunt cards and taunt package out. Some of them I kept, but I tried to focus more on like the death rattles and mechs side of it. Still was playing Inventor Boom and the Boom Wrench and all that, but I was kind of trying to lean into, okay, let's play like the taunts that just buff other taunts and these mechs, and Testing Dummy was the big one. And oh man, I got to do a turn that was like, have a test dummy on the board with a boom wrench, played the mini to set off the first death rattle of the boom wrench, played the next boom wrench to set off the death rattle of the mini boom wrench, played the mini, you know, so I got like 4 activations of the testing dummy death rattle and got to hit face with the testing dummy and a weapon swing. And I did so much damage in that one turn, and it was definitely a lethal, but that felt really cool.
I thought you were going to say you lost that game.
That was awesome. Oh, I would have. No, I would have said that at the very beginning. I would have been salty about that one, probably.
All right, Doc, any thoughts on Warrior before we move on to the lightning round?
No,
all right,
sir.
Lightning round, Dawn. Wizbang, go.
Wizbang feels very hit or miss. It's very fun, but some of the decks feel quite a bit stronger than some of the other ones that feel pretty underwhelming.
All right, there you have it. Some of them did look crazy. And the Warlock one particularly seemed pretty good with 20 cards. But all right, so class or deck we are most excited about. Why don't you start us off, Doc? Make sure he's still awake.
Yeah, so I'm excited for Hunter because I get to play with King Plush. Yeah, like I just love King Crush. I love Hunter. Hunter was the first class that I super fell in love with Hearthstone, and so it's always just had a special place for me. And as many of you should know at this point, I absolutely love dinosaurs. So yeah, King Plush is my chase card for this expansion.
Fantastic. And I think I'm looking forward to Shaman. It looks like it's going to be the most fun. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it has a lot of variety and isn't just one deck, but it's just the theming of it's really fun, and it does look like it has some powerful tools. How about yourself, Dawn?
I'm going to cheat. The class I'm looking forward to the most is Death Knight Warlock Warrior. which is a very exciting class, as you all know. No, that's I feel like for me, those 3 classes kind of all did, and maybe a bit with Hunter with like the jungle gym thing, but being able to like hand buff my stuff and then put out the quilters, being able to trigger the death rattles of that testing dummy, being able to like kind of have hand lock back and build some like big boards of stuff. To me, that felt really cool. And a lot of like, especially the death rattle, or even just like having these kind of bulky mid-game kind of turns or minions, feels very much like decks that I enjoy. So I very much am looking forward to those.
Right, Doc, are there any decks that you're not looking forward to?
None that I'm like super like hateful against. I just know that if I don't end up playing Rogue, I'm gonna hate the iterations of Rogue, because Rogue's always one of those classes for me where if I don't play it, then every time I lose to it is something I remember, and it makes me hate it more. Warlock is like that for me too, generally. But yeah, I just don't want to lose to Rogues doing a bunch of degenerate stuff that Rogue.
But at least that's usually quick. I'm going to say that I didn't really have a strong candidate coming into this, but after listening to Dawn talk about that Druid, I am not looking forward to playing against that Druid, because that just sounds like it's going to suck the life out of you. How about yourself, Dawn?
That's the one I was going to say. Like, if that actually is even close to a top meta deck, or even a popular deck, even if it doesn't have the highest win rates, it's still going to be a deck that like I'm not going to be excited to play against.
All right, you got any final thoughts on Theory Crafting before we wrap this up?
Overall, just it was an absolute blast. It was really cool to see quite a few people who were getting to do Theory Crafting for the first time, and I think that brought like a lot of difference in decks and a lot more like variety in what we saw and who we played against. So that was super fun.
All right, Doc, I don't know about you. That was a lot of information. Very excited for the new mini set. I mean, the mini set. I keep calling it mini set, the new expansion. But I'm full. I'm really full, but I think we have a little room for dessert. How about yourself?
Yeah, dessert sounds good. So listeners, please leave us a review. We prefer 5 stars, but leave us an honest review on how you feel like we're doing. Please let us know the good, bad, the ugly, because we want to make this show something that you want to listen to, and we want to make this show something that we put a lot of effort into. So any constructive criticism, we'll take it in stride. You can email the show at breadandbutterhs@gmail.com. And if you leave us a review or email the show, we'll read it out on the show. Dawn, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at DawnieDK, DAWNIEDK. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube, DragonRider TCCG. And I do the Dr. 3 HS podcast, where we focus on standard Hearthstone. And then also every week you can find me at the TCCG Roundtable, which we do go live on both my Twitch and YouTube with that show every Friday. And we cover a whole bunch of different card games, talk about like news across all of the card games, and we dive into either maybe specifics for a game, or we go into a lot of like concepts and strategies that will probably apply to multiple card games.
I meant to ask you before, how did you do against the other members of Dr. 3 or Roundtable? I know I saw you play Cat.
Actually, not great. Not great. Cat kicked my butt. She was playing one of those hunter decks that was using that jungle gym. That one, actually, I did not talk about that. That game was really cool. It was actually pretty early on in the second half. We did the second half of the day. We queued into each other, and it was actually kind of a long game, a lot of back and forth, and we got spectated by the Theory Cast crew. So we were on the big stream for that too. So that was a blast.
Fantastic. Hey, Doc, where can people find you on the internets?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky.
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Tito Santana HS. Dawn, do you have any shout outs this week?
Yeah, I will, as I always do, shout out the two of you. Thank you so much again for having me on. I always have a blast talking with you guys and hanging out, whether we're doing something fun like this or talking more serious concept stuff. And then I want to shout out, we'll say the other members of Doctor 3, Cats, Alkaline Cats, and Smarms, and then also my AFG crew that got to do the theory crafting as well, which, again, repeat, Smarms and Ron Mexico and M. Drugi. So, and then, of course, the biggest shout out to Ridiculous Hat for all of the work that he does and getting everybody set up with this. And I mean, this week between the Hearthstone's 10th anniversary and this Theorycraft stuff and all these like reviews and reveals for the cards and all that stuff, he's been just working away like a madman. So appreciate everything that he does.
And at least you know now that Smarms will not try to perform a mutiny on your other show, because we have the evidence that she's done trying to edit. Doc, do you have any shout outs this week?
Yeah, as always, Don, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you. It's always fun chatting with you. Yeah, I'm just going to shout my brother out again. Very, very proud of him for the hard work that he's been doing with his short films. And it's very, very fulfilling to see him follow his lifelong dream of wanting to make movies and be a director. It's literally been something he's wanted to do since we were like in 4th grade in elementary school. So it's been a very, very long time. And it's awesome to see him having the kind of success he's had with his shorts. And I know that his capstone is going to be just as, if not more successful than the rest of them. And I look forward to seeing the feature-length script that he's writing for that one. But he won't share anything with me about his capstone until I see it. So, go Doc McButt-Twin. How about yourself, Tito?
Well, double shout out to Dawn, who not only came on again this week, and we love having her on, but unless something changes, and things can change, she's going to be filling in as a host for Doc next week. We have a guest that, I'm not going to say, because if things go wrong, I don't want to, things, but we have a very special guest next week lined up, at least right now, so I'm hoping that works out okay. Sorry, I always get the good guests when Doc can't be here, but at least we got you here for Pocket Train. So, and I also want to shout out Little Friend, who I have no idea who they are, but they shouted us out in a
yes.
And so Bunny Hopper asked people to shout out their favorite small creators below to get a mega bundle, and they shouted out Bread and Butter, and that felt really nice.
It's Ziliax, but a plushie.
There. So thank you very much to Little Friend. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody. But I think we're toast, guys. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
It's Ziliax, but a plushie. Yes. All right, bye.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.